Are you alone right now? Are you sure about that? You know, sometimes the simplest words are the ones that carry the most terrifying weight. Okay, let's dive into how these stories work. But maybe, keep the lights on for this one.
It always starts so innocently, doesn't it? Like a kid's game. Just this little sing-song voice right outside your door. Ding dong, I know you can hear me.
And the request, it almost sounds playful. Open up the door. I only want to play a little. But there's that little voice in your head, that primal instinct that keeps you completely frozen.
Then the tone shifts. That playfulness just vanishes, and it's replaced by this cold, sharp impatience. Dingle, you can't keep me waiting.
And there it is, the final chilling threat that confirms your absolute worst fear. It's already too late for you to try and run away. The game is over, and you've already lost.
The power of a creepy rhyme like that, what we can call the first voice of fear, it comes from how brutally direct it is. It's a simple, targeted threat that completely invades your personal space. It doesn't need some complex monster. Nope, it just needs you, and the door between you and whatever is on the other side.
It's because it takes something familiar and just twists it into something menacing. It takes the safety of a nursery rhyme and turns it into a promise of violence. But what happens when the threat isn't so direct? What if it's hiding in plain sight, disguised as an act of kindness?
Okay, so now let's look at a totally different kind of story, one that's built on that deep-seated anxiety of trusting a stranger. This isn't a rhyme whispered at your door. This is the kind of story you might hear from a friend of a friend, an urban legend that just feels a little too real.
The setup couldn't be more ordinary. A young guy, he's finishing his shift, driving home on a bridge he's been on 100 times. We've all been in a situation like that, right? It's late, the road is quiet, he sees a woman who needs a lift, and he decides to do the right thing and help her out.
So he lets her on the back of his bike. But as he's driving, he starts noticing weird things. Other drivers, in trucks, in cars, they're looking at him strangely, almost trying to signal something. He can't quite make it out. Then, all of a sudden, a truck driver aggressively cuts him off, gets out, holding a metal pipe, and starts walking towards him. The delivery boy blacks out. The next thing he knows, he wakes up in a hospital. His shoulder is all bandaged up, and it's just throbbing with pain.
The truck driver is there, and he explains everything. And here is the real kicker. What those other drivers saw, the reason they were trying to warn him, was that the woman on the back of his bike, she was leaning in and literally eating his shoulder as he drove. He was so completely under her spell that he never felt a thing.
And that just brilliantly illustrates the power of an urban legend. It's like a campfire story for the modern age, a warning against trusting strangers. It works because it totally bypasses our rational brain and speaks directly to our ancient survival instincts, that part of us that just screams danger when a stranger gets too close.
So let's see how storytellers take this a step further by asking that one simple question, is it a true story? See, they've learned that the line between a believable urban legend and a quote-unquote true story is dangerously thin, and trust me, Hollywood knows exactly how to exploit that. You can see this whole fear machine working overtime in movies. Take The Nun. The marketers made sure everyone knew it was filmed in a real, supposedly haunted, 100-year-old Romanian church. They even pushed stories about the crew seeing ghostly figures. And then you've got Annabelle. The entire film is built on the foundation of a real, haunted doll locked away in a museum.
And the legend tied to the real Annabelle doll gets even more specific, which makes it even scarier. The story goes that a young man visited the museum, made fun of the doll, tapped on its glass case, and dared it to do something. Well, according to his girlfriend, who survived, he died in a motorcycle crash just 1 hour later. It's that specific, chilling detail, 1 hour, that makes the story stick in your brain.
So why is that phrase so incredibly powerful? Well, it's because it shatters our defenses. Our brains are basically wired to sort threats into two boxes, real and not real. The phrase based on a true story deliberately blurs that line, leaving our internal threat detection system on high alert. Suddenly, the monster isn't just on the screen. It could be out there, in our world. The story stops being an escape and starts feeling like a terrifying possibility.
So when we put all these pieces together, the creepy rhyme, the urban legend, the true story, we start to see a blueprint emerge. A modern formula for creating fear.
And the toolkit is surprisingly consistent. You start with a direct threat, like that ding-dong rhyme, to create instant anxiety. Then you ground it in a cautionary tale, a situation that feels totally plausible, like the delivery boy story.
Next, you blur reality by claiming it's based on a true story, just like they did with The Nun and Annabelle. And you seal the deal with one single unforgettable visceral detail, like a woman literally eating someone's shoulder.
At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if the story is a 4-line rhyme or a 2-hour movie. The goal is always the same, to find a crack in your sense of safety and just crawl right inside. They all tap into the same fundamental human fears.
And that leaves us with the real question, doesn't it? When we hear these stories, when we feel that chill run down our spine, how much of it is the truth of the tale, and how much is the fiction we are just so willing to believe? And maybe, more importantly, does it even matter?